We have breaking news. A judge has dismissed terrorism charges against the suspect in the UnitedHealthcare CEO murder case. That suspect appeared in a Manhattan courtroom for the first time in months, where the judge dismissed 2 counts of murder as a crime of terrorism. But the rest of the indictment remains, including second-degree murder charges. And that suspect has pleaded not guilty. Let's bring in ABC Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky, who was inside the courtroom, and ABC legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer for more analysis. Aaron, what's the latest here?
Luigi Mangione came and went from a quick hearing here at court, and the judge from the bench issued a ruling dismissing charges of murder as a crime of terrorism. Judge Gregory Caro said, Diane, that the prosecutors presented sufficient evidence that the defendant murdered UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson in a premeditated and calculated execution. But the judge said that does not mean the defendant did so with terroristic intent. So Luigi Mangione is still going to face second-degree murder charges that could get him life in prison. But the judge did not find that there was an enhancement of terrorism that was warranted here because he said the evidence just didn't support it. Prosecutors with the Manhattan DA's office believe that Mangione's writings that were allegedly found in a notebook he was carrying in a backpack after his arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania, pointed to the idea that Mangione wanted to influence others. So they believed this terrorism enhancement was satisfied, but the judge disagreed. So Mangione is still going to be facing these murder charges that accuse him of intentionally killing Brian Thompson, but absent that terroristic enhancement. So it is a win for the defense. The case is slightly narrowed, and he's due back here now December 1st.
Brian, what do you make of the judge's logic here? Why aren't those writings enough to show that this was more than just about killing Brian Thompson, but it was also about spreading a larger message and scaring other people?
So as someone who's practiced in New York for over a decade now and has actually litigated against this statute of terrorism, I think it does make sense. And this is why, and I'll break it down this way. There are 3 different ways in which you can affect terrorism, 2 of which apply to the government, either influencing a policy of the government by intimidation or affecting the conduct of a unit of government by murder. That doesn't apply here. What both the defense and prosecution were focusing on, the one aspect of to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. And while the writings are a part of this case, I think if Luigi Mangione had publicized those writings and told the civilian population to try to coerce him, says, I'm going to do this for this reason because I want UnitedHealthcare to do X, Y, and Z, I think that would have been terrorism. The way that the government argued this in saying that, well, because there was a murder of an individual that has a certain policy based on his employment, it's clear that the individual, being Luigi Mangione, was trying to influence the population. And the judge made the analogy and said, no, murders throughout the city, throughout the country, that can terrorize people. It can make them frightened. But it doesn't mean that the person who's committing that murder is trying to influence them for that basis. And there was not that information in the grand jury. So I think the judge's ruling makes sense here.
And I know this differs state by state. So saying he is still charged with second-degree murder doesn't mean that they don't think this was premeditated.
Oh, this is absolutely premeditated from the eyes of the judge in terms of this ruling. Second-degree murder is when you have a premeditated murder of an individual. As Aaron Katersky pointed out, he's facing up to life in prison, 15 years to life in fact. But in terms of his intent was to kill the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, at least based on the grand jury results and the findings of the court. It was not to influence or coerce the civilian population for some sort of policy change. That's what the judge is making a distinction here.
Brian, his lawyers were hoping the judge would go farther here and also dismiss state charges based on double jeopardy because he also has a federal child. The judge didn't go for that and also didn't set a trial date at this hearing. So what happens next?
Well, what's next is Luigi Mangione is going to be back in court on December 1st. The judge still has a couple of other rulings to make, including setting a trial date, but also to decide a defense motion as to whether prosecutors violated Mangione's HIPAA rights when they accessed some of his medical records through a subpoena. The judge said he was not ruling on the legality of the subpoena, but he told prosecutors they couldn't use any evidence collected from his insurance company, Aetna. Prosecutors said there wasn't much they were after anyway. But Mangione is also due back in court in December. Across the way in federal court, that's where he's facing the possibility of the death penalty if he's convicted of federal charges. And I think the defense is going to try and argue that the federal case should go first because it has the more serious potential outcome. They'd like to focus there. But I don't think this judge or the prosecutors with the Manhattan DA's office are going to give up so easily on trying him in state court for a murder that occurred on the streets of Manhattan.
All right, Aaron Katersky, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you both.